Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Sure, everybody's audio's working, I guess.
Yes, Dr. Ken, this is David Gamble. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yep. Sounds
Okay,
good.
last time I did one of these meetings, I could never get my microphone to work, so maybe I got it.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Good morning, everybody. I'm showing 9 o'clock. Before Dr. Korth takes over, I just want to remind everyone that, we are Zooming. Mind your audio and your background video. I would recommend, turn your camera off and staying muted unless you're ready to talk or ask a question. It is being recorded. So that being said,
recording in progress.
There we go. So recording in progress. So that being said, I'll hand it off to you, Dr. Korth, to start the meeting.
All right, thank you, Scott. And hope everybody's audios are working okay and proceed. We just have a couple items to cover today. We're missing a couple, looks like a couple committee members too right now. And then maybe they'll be joining us, Bruce Alford and Garrett Frost. I don't see on my screen, so, but they may be joining us. So why don't we start with introductions, and I'll just go around on the screen. Mr. Gamble.
Yes, sir. David Gamble here, farmer, Mississippi County, and representing Cord and Fin Graves.
And Mr. Beerbaum. And you are muted, John, if you can hear me. Maybe we'll.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me
There are.
now?
Yes.
Okay. John Beerbaum from Lake Village, representing forestry.
Thank you. Travis Center.
Yeah, Travis Center, Mississippi County, representing farmers.
And Mark Stoll.
Mark Stowe, Arkansas Department of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mark. And Brandy Reynolds. I guess, yeah, we'll just go ahead and introduce everybody. Go ahead, Brandy.
Department of Agriculture, Brandy Reynolds.
All right, thank you. And Kyle Baltz.
And Calvo, Pocahontas, and fertilizer.
And I think that was everybody I have names listed for. I see somebody else has joined us. If that in the event that's one of our committee members.
Bruce Alford.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you for joining.
How are you?
Very well. So we're just getting underway, just making introductions. So with that, I guess we'll just move to the first agenda item. Mr. Bray has some new rule changes to discuss with us, and you should have all received that document. Hopefully had a chance to look through that because there are quite a few changes. But Scott, I'll hand it over to you and you can give us the background and any other info.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to go ahead and set everything up and get everybody kind of tuned into what we're doing. So we have, as far as I know, can remember, we've always had an agreement plan with EPA. And we refer to that as our certification and training plan, our C&T plan. And that plan more or less spells out our relationship with EPA, what we're going to do, what they're going to do. And within that plan, it includes our authority to be able to manage and license and provide pesticide oversight within the state. It also includes our enforcement policy and some of the various requirements that we have. It also shows the different categories and classifications in licensing that we offer and how we provide training for that, how our relationship with the University of Arkansas to develop training materials and testing opportunities and recertification oversight and so on and so forth. So basically the plan details how we manage and operate our pesticide oversight program in Arkansas under the authority of FIFRA and in cooperation with EPA. So this year, over the last year or so, we've worked on updating that plan. I don't remember the last time it was updated, but since it was since the last plan in place, there have been a few federal changes with FIFRA. Nothing big, but they asked that we update our rules to align more closely and just be more specifically, have things more specifically spelled out in our rules to align with the plan and align with FIFRA. So as we developed this plan, we agreed that we would initiate and propose rulemaking to the board and through the Arkansas rulemaking process in order to update our plan and align more with FIFRA. So what you're going to see today are a couple of things. Our pest control rules, as with many of our other rules, are fairly old. These pest control rules date back, I mean, I think they first started in the 70s. And there was a time when, prior to the Department of Agriculture, when everybody was referred to as a plant board. There was the board of directors, you guys, the plant board, and then there was the agency, the state employees, the staff that administers the business of the plant was also called the plant board. So throughout these regulations, it references plant board, but sometimes the meaning behind that reference is the actual board. And sometimes it's referencing an administrative action that's done by the staff and employees, which is now part of the Department of Agriculture. So what you're going to see through these rules and this markup, I'm calling it, is you're going to see some language cleanup. You're going to see where we've gone through and tried to identify what is a plant board of directors role and what is an administrative action that the department does. And along with that, we've also included the changes that EPA and our certification and training plan require. And that basically has to do with pesticide applicator record keeping and, excuse me, how we do ongoing, or how we the requirements and how we approve ongoing education, which is what we refer to as recertification, and that's required for license holders every third year. They have to be recertified. So, and none of this is really changing. All this has been in place for years and years and years. We're just putting a little more of it in more detailed writing in our rules. So that being said, I'm going to share my screen. And then I'm just going to kind of walk through this. I will try not to take up too much of your time today. So can everybody see this pretty well? I can blow it up a little more if I need to. But if everybody's good with it, I'm just going to start walking through it. When I get to a spot where there's a little more language, I'll slow down and stop and give y'all time to read it if you need to. I did send it out yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. So you've had time to look it over if you were able to get to that. And we used it's a program called Track Changes, and we used this for our markups. And that program identifies different people who work in it with different colors. So these different colors you're going to see really don't mean anything other than you can see Corey Seats, our chief legal guy up here. He did some stuff here and he's blue, and some of it, I think Seth or myself did will be in red, and so on and so forth. So don't let the color bother you at all. So just to go ahead and get started here, you'll see where, and another thing I forgot to mention is throughout state government rules and regulations, there's a directive to basically strike regulations, and they will be referred to as rules. And that doesn't mean anything, doesn't change anything. It's just terminology that is preferred through either legislator or the governor. I'm not sure who set that in motion. It was probably the previous governor, that administration, or a legislative request. But either way, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just standardizing terminology and language throughout state government regulations, and they are referred to as rules. So you'll see where throughout here where we've struck regulations. And this is basically just stating that this law will be administered by the Department of Ag. Here, this is just some more editing by legal, whereas we had non-commercial broken into two words. We combined it into one word, doesn't change anything. Again, rules, striking regulations. Again, the non-commercial cleanup. Here's where we started distinguishing between an administrative act that's done by the department versus a regulatory oversight, rulemaking, enforcement decision, so on and so forth, role that's still played by the plant board. And basically, this is just administrative work that we here at the department do on behalf as we administer the business of the plant board. Here's our first real change, and what we've done here is, for as long as I can remember, we have always offered pest control license examinations on a bi-monthly basis. And what that broke down to is our ornamental, or excuse me, our structural, which is our termite, household pest, fumigation categories, were always given the second Monday of the odd months. And then the ornamental, weed control, turf, lawn and turf, and some of the non-commercial categories were given the second Monday of the even months. So for any particular one category, your testing opportunity came every other month. It just depended whether you fell on an even or odd month, depending on the category you're testing for. Maybe 2 years ago, I can't remember exactly, we introduced online testing. And we also test technicians every Wednesday. So what we're doing here is we're striking that every other month policy, and we are opening testing for licensees for that opportunity to happen either anytime online. So you can go through the online process and you can test anytime you want in the middle of the night if you want, once you register for that test. If you still want to do a written old school test, a licensee of any category, all they have to do is submit an application, and then within 10 business days, we will schedule them on one of the Wednesdays. We're going to continue our every Wednesday technician testing. And if a licensee wants a written test, we'll work them in on the next Wednesday once we receive their application and their money. So this should increase testing license the way we were doing it. And moving on again, plant board to department. This is an administrative function. Some organizational terminology within the department. Prior to the department, the program that actually administered the commercial pest control program was called a section. Now we're referring to that as a program. So that's really doesn't change anything other than in-house terminology. And then there'll be just some edits here. Again, plant board to department, administrative business. Plant board to department, section to program. Plant board to department, section to program, or the same. Everybody will see that, you know, none, here are the fees. None of that's being changed at all. Again, plant board to department. Basically, this statement refers to a license holder or a license operator who is training a technician. And for technicians to get their registration / license, they have to go through a certain level of on-the-job training along with taking a test. And during that on-the-job training, if under the supervision of the licensee, the trainer, they're going to use a restricted use pesticide. That license holder has to show on paper where they gave them some safety training associated with that restricted use pesticide. And in the pest control business, most of the vast majority of the pesticides they use are not restricted. But if they were going to a fumigation or maybe some of the new generation rodenticides or something, they would just have to give them the label or the manual required safety training before letting them make that application, even under their oversight. So most of this stuff would have been required by the label anyway. We're just putting it in writing in our rules to align with label and federal language as well. And to continue on, department to plant board, or plant board to department, all of this is administrative stuff that we do on behalf of the board. Again, just striking regulations, replacing it with rules. We turned to green here. One of the other attorneys did some more help with editing. Again, nothing to worry or no substantial change other than just clarifying the role from board to department, section to program, regulations to rules, board to department, regulations to rules, same, board to department, same. Again, more the same. This all stayed board. And we just added for clarification and consistency, where it just used to say board, we just added state plant board. Changed Arkansas Pest Management Association to Pest Management Industry.
Scott, can I interject just real briefly?
Yes, sir.
Because, and I know, the part of the reason I am chair of this committee is because because of some of the language in here, just as a point of clarification. So we merged the departments of entomology and plant pathology a couple of years ago. And so I'm department head of that. So just the name of the department there is not correct. And I don't know that it matters that much, but for the foreseeable future, it will be Department of Entomology and Plant Pathology.
Right.
I just thought this, while we're on this page, thought I would mention that. So yeah, it's right there. Yeah. Section 6 there. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's entomology and plant pathology. Traditionally, both of those heads were members of the plant board. But when we merged.
So a more accurate term would be Department of Entomology and Pathology.
And plant pathology.
Plant pathology.
Yeah. As long as we're cleaning up language here, I guess.
I'm making notes. What we'll do, Dr. Korth, is when we present this to the board on the 5th, will that change?
Okay. Yeah.
And if anybody sees anything they want to discuss further or make a recommendation, feel free. Moving on, here is recertification language. There's a lot of language here, but it really is just describing how we've always managed this in partnership with the U of A in the background anyway. It's not really changing anything at all. It basically spells out that certification is good for 3 years. And if you don't, within that 3-year period, get recertified, then you are not eligible for your license renewal, or you have to test again. Cooperative Extension has always produced study material for us and training material. And we've always ran recertification programs by them, specifically Ples Bradley, for his approval. None of that changes. That still falls on them. What Ples has done for us in pest control, and maybe this will also, you'll see this with a pesticide rule proposal at the board meeting. Some of you may see it Friday during a pesticide committee meeting. But Ples, for several years ago basically spelled out what he wants to see in any recertification program, and there are 5 topics that have to be covered. One is safety, one is IPM, or 2, 3 is application or equipment methods. 4 would be environmental concern, and 5 would be laws and rule updates. So any program that someone presents to us for recertification approval, we make sure on behalf of PLES and the U of A that it meets this criteria and covers these 5 subjects. And with that, we'll approve it, or if we have a question, we'll send it over to PLES for clarification. So none of that, that's the way we've worked that for years, and this doesn't change any of that. It just kind of spells it out. And if anybody has any questions, we can sit on that and talk about it for a minute. If not, we can move on. Okay. Again, more just language cleanup. This addresses application records, and this is pretty specific to restricted use pesticides. Each pesticide, whether it's restricted or professional use, is going to have a label. It's going to have label requirements, and usually those labels have a level of record keeping to them. This, which applies to restricted use pesticides, this level of record keeping is you'll find in most RUP labels anyway, and we've looked for this when we've done RUP inspections for years. We're just incorporating it now into both rules, these pest control rules you're looking at today and the pesticide rules that the pesticide committee will look at Friday. This exact same language will be seen in them. And it's basically just clarifying this is the record keeping, the level of record keeping that applicators have to maintain when they use restricted use pesticides. And again, if anybody has any questions or wants discussion, I'll sit on that for just a second.
Scott, this is Travis. So there wasn't any language on record keeping in the past. I'm assuming all this was added lately.
It was very vague, and it said something to the effect that operators shall keep records for 2 years, and it shall contain the name of the pesticide. It was very vague, Travis. I don't see it here. I think it was found in the law, but it was not as clearly defined as this is in our rule. But like I said, most of the labels required this level of record keeping, and the label's always been the law and always controlled over our rules anyway. So we've been holding applicators to this level of record keeping anyway. So
Yeah, thank you.
you're welcome. Again, more just board to department, some more editing by legal, doesn't change anything. Regulations to rules. Legal editing, board to department. This is just some rewording of our policy when we find, our inspectors find a building, and this is associated with termite treatments that was not treated according to, our minimum treating standards. And this is stuff, this is what we've always done anyway. We typically send a notice. And there are two options there with that notice. It can be just what we call a pink slip, which is associated with an inspection fee because we had to go back out and re-inspect, or it can be just a letter of correction. And staff pretty much makes a determination on that based on, a case-by-case basis. We have, and I wanted to let y'all know, we've reviewed this with an industry group last Friday and answered their questions, and they were okay with this. In fact, I'm pretty sure they gave their support behind these changes. More editing, more changing, section program, plant board of department, board of department. Regulations to rules. This is some language, you're gonna see this exact language throughout the rest of this document. And it basically just applies to each category or classification of pest control license. And it just clarifies that the U of A develops these training manuals, and that they meet the competency requirements of 40 CFR. And it also clarifies the basic core examination, which meets federal competency standards. And this basic core is a test. It's the federal EPA basic core exam that is taken along with every license category specific test. So this is going on forever as well. And both pest control and the ag-related pesticide program. So any licensee that gets a license, they take two tests typically. They'll take that category specific, and then they'll take that basic core exam. Again, just more cleanup, more editing. These are the minimum treating standards associated with termite work. None of that's changing. That's been in place for years and years. Industry's good with that. More editing. Here's that same exact language I just explained. It's just being applied to the household pest and rodent control category. Like I said, you'll see it as we go. Here's that same exact language to our classification 4, our ornamental tree and turf pest. Here's our fumigation category. This is the same. They added a little more language to fumigation, and it basically is just clearly identifying the training aspect, or the aspects of what the training has to cover. And all this comes straight out of the fumigant manuals. Back to that same language. This is for our class 7 food manufacturing. This is a non-commercial. Non-commercial fumigation. It's that same language we just looked at for the commercial fumigation. The level of training and testing is basically the same for the commercial versus non-commercial. We introduced this language initially, and track changes, as I mentioned in the beginning, is what we use to track these markups and these changes. For some reason, when you need to change something that you've already changed, it won't let you go in there and change 1 or 2 words. It strikes out the whole thing and reintroduces it. And you'll see this blue right here that was added by Sherry, one of our attorneys. That's the only thing she added to all this that struck out. But again, the program struck all this and added the whole thing. So all that, just to avoid some confusion on why that looks as big as it is, it's really not. It's just a track change program thing. Again, just more of the editing. That same language, this is for our Class 9 ornamental tree and turf non-commercial categories. There's a non-commercial golf course category, that same language about the training manuals and the core exam, all that's same as we've seen before. And that's pretty much it, other than just more language terminology cleanup. These are just title changes that occurred during the reorganization under the Department of Ag. All the actual people are still the same. All right, so that's pretty much it.
All
Does
right,
anybody
thank you,
have any
Scott.
questions?
Yeah, questions for Scott? So Scott, I guess at this point, our task or charge is to basically approve this, with the one minor change that was discussed. If there are no other changes or again, questions, this is the time. Well, we got Scott here.
That'd be correct, Dr. Korth. What we would like from the committee is just a recommendation or a report to the board that, we reviewed this, and as a committee, y'all agree with staff and with the proposed changes, if you agree.
All right.
Thank you.
So at this point, I'd ask for a motion to
I'll make that one.
recommend approval.
I think Mr. Baltz made the motion.
I'll second.
All right.
Travis.
Thank you, Travis. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'd like to take a vote on this. So I'll go around for those members that are here. Mr. Alford? You're muted, Bruce. Maybe we'll come back to Bruce. Mr. Baltz?
I'll go for
Mr. Beerbaum?
I vote for it.
David Gamble?
I vote for it.
Travis Center?
I vote for it.
And Bruce Alford? Bruce, we still can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I vote for it. Yeah.
All right. And I believe that's all. I don't hope I didn't miss anybody, right? Any committee members? Okay.
I think that's it.
All right. So that's 5 in favor and none opposed. So we will bring this forward as a recommendation to the full board at our next meeting for approval. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One follow-up, when we did meet with industry last week, they did ask us as staff to look into a couple of things for them. One thing they asked us to look at is reciprocation of pest control licenses with some of the surrounding states. I did look into that, and that requirement is in law. It's in statute. It's not in regulation. And basically the statute 17-37-201 license requirement states that anybody that's doing business as defined in this law, pest control business essentially in the state of Arkansas, has to have a license from the state plant board. So in order to allow reciprocation with the surrounding states, it would require legislative change, I believe. So we'll circle back and meet with industry again. And if that's something they want to pursue in this upcoming legislative session, that'll be up to them. So there may be some more to come on that. They also ask about online recertification credits. As I showed y'all in that document on the recertification process, there are those 5 subjects that have to be covered. And typically in the past, the way we've always managed recertification is it's a one program, all or nothing. I am open, and what they've asked for is if we would allow or somehow logistically work out opportunities for them to take online recertification training. So I'm totally open to that. I'm going to get with staff, and we are also going to meet back with industry and see. I think that's something that we can manage under these regs, including these reg proposals. It's just some logistics we're going to have to work out with industry, you know. I think we can get there, and I support it. And what that would essentially amount to is a person wouldn't have to find a program, a conference, a seminar that meets total recertification to attend, because we have had licensees that, for whatever reason, over the course of their 3 years, they didn't make it to a conference or a seminar, and it boiled down to the last month or two. And they needed to get ongoing education, or they were going to have to retest, and they were really struggling to find a program. And I just think an online opportunity could save some folks a lot of trouble, and they can also get a good level of ongoing education. We just got to do it right. So anyway, long story short, we continue to work with this industry. We have a really good relationship with them. They support this rule change, as I said. They ask us to look into a couple other things, and we're doing that. So we may be coming back to you all as a committee with some more recommended changes in the future with this program. We also, and I didn't get this on the agenda, I didn't find out about it till after the agenda went out, but we have one resolution of a pest control incident I would like to present to y'all for your recommendation to the board. So I'm going to share my screen and walk through this again real quickly. Shouldn't take.
Hey, Scott, I just had a couple questions on the points you just made.
Okay.
And before we move on to that, so the request for, reciprocation on licensing. Do any of our adjoining states allow that in their states?
I don't know, and that's one thing we're going to look
Okay.
into. But I don't have an answer for that.
Okay.
Typically,
Yeah,
I want to say, I don't know. I want to say probably not, but they could. I know on the agricultural side of the house, reciprocating is fairly common with several of those categories, classifications, with all our surrounding states. We have agreements. But we never have in the pest control arena, and I'm just not sure that other states are either. So,
okay.
one thing we'll have to look at is we're fairly unique in the pest control industry with our termite category. We have requirements that a lot of other states don't. We have minimum treating requirements for termite treatments, and we also have some contractual requirements where, you know, they have to, for most of their contracts, offer some level of damage coverage. And a lot of other states don't have that. So it would be kind of tricky to reciprocate between the termite category, and I think very confusing for out-of-state licensees to do termite work in Arkansas without clearly understanding all these requirements. But the other categories like household pests, and that was one, the specific one that the pest management group were talking about. Those license categories and requirements are pretty uniform and harmonized, I would like to say, with all the other states. So that would not be a big issue, I don't think, to reciprocate in that category, and maybe some of the ornamental turf categories. So
Thank you.
anybody else have any more questions along the lines of rule changes or our meeting with pest management? All righty, well, moving on, this resolution of pest control incident was essentially, it was a lawn care application, and it was two persons were involved. One, and I'm assuming they're related, I don't know that. One was John Ross Jr. and the other was Jason Ross. One had the license and the other one was in training as a technician working under the supervision of the one with the license. Our inspectors found both of them doing a lawn treatment, and neither one of them were wearing the proper PE. They were in short sleeve shirts, I think, and may not have had on gloves. And that's correct. So our settlement was amounted to a mid-level civil penalty for both individuals, which is $300 apiece. And in the settlement agreement, it states that they will jointly be responsible for a total of $600 civil penalty. And this is standard language on the 3-year like violation, moving up to the next level. And they agreed to it, and they went ahead, and we typically, and we have language in here, ask them not to send their money until this makes its way through the board for final approval, but they went ahead and signed it and sent the money in here. So we've already got the money on this one. We thought about reimbursing it back to them or refunding it back to them. Then we just have to turn around after this goes through the board and ask for it back, assuming the board approves it. So anyway, as of now, we're going to hold this money. And if the board does not approve it, we'll send the money back. If the board does approve it, we've already got paid for it. So, if anybody wants to look this over, I can go through it slower, or if you have questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, we just appreciate a recommendation to the board that the board accepts this settlement.
I make a recommendation, we accept it as is and send it to the board.
I'll second.
So the second from John Beerbaum. So at this point, let's vote on this, and if you agree with that, please say aye. Mr. Alford?
Yeah, aye.
All right, or yes, it's fine. Kyle Baltz? John Beerbaum?
Aye.
David Gamble?
Aye.
Travis Center?
Aye.
All right, so we have unanimous agreement. We'll bring this forward as a recommendation to the full board that we accept this resolution agreement. All right. Is there any other business from Mr. Bray or anybody else for that matter?
I don't have any other business. I really appreciate y'all as usual. Great job. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Scott. And as I've told you before, your staff does a great job. So
They certainly do. I appreciate every one of them.
you bet, it makes it easy for us. So
I want to
All
call
right,
out
let's-
Brandy Reynolds. She's running the Zoom for us. I forgot to tell her in 5 minutes before this meeting, she walked by and said, "Do I need to do the Zoom?" And I was, please. So anyway, she's always willing and able. So thank you, Brandy.
You bet. We appreciate it. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
Thank
So
you.
moved.
So, and a second.
Recording stopped.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you. Everybody have a great day.
See y'all.